We just aren't there yet with a widespread adoption particularly again at the local level. And we have some notable exceptions like Maricopa County, but even a lot of the major cities are not educated or aware enough about the power of NIEM to cut their costs and improve their ability to share, to get to this point of incorporating it into their RFP. They also need language of how to write this in an RFP. And I know that neither DHS or DOJ is in a position politically to write language and dictate it, but there has to be some way where both the leadership of people of your stature, I'm talking about the two CIOs here, and Donna, can influence folks in this field to know that they've got to start putting those in RFPs. I think there's a role for Global to play in this, to provide language through IACP, NSA, NDAA, et cetera, on how to make your system NIEM conformant and how to participate. We have to educate the people of this country. Even one of the most widespread implementations of NIEM right now people don't think about a lot is NDEX, the National Data Exchange Program that the FBI has rolled out under the very strong leadership of Van Hitch. And it uses NIEM and LEX to create a report of criminal incidents. Well, when we worked with the FBI to do the cost study analysis of what it's going to cost to roll this out nationwide, and we did a survey very selectively of 2,800 police departments, 40% of them never heard of NDEX, let alone NIEM. If we'd asked them how many of them had heard of NIEM, I'm sure the percentage would have been in the teens. We don't have the influence at that local level that we need to reach that exponential value proposition that you all have talked about. Is there a way that the Executive Steering Committee or the participants in NIEM can do more to reach out to that constituency?
Paul, that's a good point as we think about incorporating conditions in federal grants, and I think that makes a lot of sense. When you get federal money, you need to comply with the standards when you're doing an information system. But we know most development out there, especially at the local level, but also the state level, is not being funded by federal money. So we really got to look at not the leveraging of the federal assets and saying, if you take this money, here's what you have to do, but the things you're talking about, Paul, is how do you get that value proposition out there for state and locals to understand that this isn't about getting the federal money, this is a value to you and will save you money in the long run.
Bob, I was just wondering, one of our committees of Global is the outreach group, and I guess an open question based on Paul's thing is, do we have enough outreach at the county level and municipal level, or is there a way that we can create one? Now that would be primarily in the justice community, but we need to figure out from a NIEM standpoint, how do we do that across the board? But you could certainly help us in the justice community, I think.
Well, that's right, and with the makeup of Global, what we try to use is the associations, because most of the major associations in the justice community are represented, as well as people like NASIO and some of the others that aren't necessarily traditional justice, but they're sitting at the table with us. And so at least our strategy on Global is to work a lot through those associations to pass the message out to their constituents as well.
Hi, Deb McPherson with Canon Design and Building Smart Alliance. There's a ton of data about the built environment that's awaiting proper linkage. And I wonder about NIEM as a collaborative space to get some of that to link up. And I'll just give you two examples. One, for fire departments to be able to give them floor plans of buildings before they get there would require some amount of work of how do you survey these buildings, what does the geometry look like, a basic display format. But then there's also an exchange format that we have started to talk with OASIS about a little bit. And that one thing alone, I feel like NIEM could help to bring together some some of the things that are out there that just need to get into the same place together, really. They just haven't found a common place. And in the NIEM model, you've got the namespace of NC facility, and it's not well described right now. I think we could work a little bit with IGIS to get the types right, to get those elements right. And then just being here for the last couple days, I feel like in addition to the public safety, you could also do something with the service that you could make something like a case manager, that a policeman would know where in a courthouse his cases are, or health could know where somebody lives or where they should go. Some of that tracking that has become evident in GIS by being able to get things to link up spatially. If they could link up spatially in a building as well, I think that would be really useful. And outside of NIEM, I'm not sure how else that would happen. So how possible is that as a collaborative space?
Well, it sounds like a burgeoning reference model is what we're talking about for a specific area. So, Donna, how would you suggest that might proceed?
So like a lot of the kind of new content and new domains, the typical process that we would use to gather up this is to ensure that we provided a platform to start having those discussions and to connect those discussions into the larger business and architecture discussions. And so I know that we've invited you into the NBAC, and we're starting to have those discussions. The burden, though, I talked about today is as we move towards domain independence, as we move more towards communities being able to be more agile and develop content, comes with that more responsibility for you to gather up a little bit more of your community. And so while we would like to help you and start those conversations, there is there's some work, and there's some governance work in bringing together of the minds that needs to happen as well. And so we'll probably set an initiative to help partner and to have those conversations. Specifically, I think we could leverage some of the work in the global area.
Good morning. My name's Cal McElroy. I'm responsible for a consulting organization on the West Coast. We've been IGIS members for many years, working with global justice standards and more recently NIEM and deployment of systems for our clients in primarily state and local agencies. I'd like to pick up a little bit on Paul's comments or question, and that is to get the attention of private industry. Certainly having NIEM conformance or compliance on RFPs a wake-up call. As well, though, we have to contemplate making investments in hiring people and training and developing people to be in a position to capitalize on those opportunities. I'm quite impressed with the turnout in the community here this week. I'm curious if there's any guidance you can provide the private sector and the vendor community about either the current, if any, gap in resources to support programs at federal, state, and local levels, and any projections or guidance you might have in terms of the future need for NIEM consultants, either at a technical level, architecture, or process level.
I would love to address this one. Recently, we have been trying to hire some technical staff for our NIEM PMO. I'm now competing with industry. So when I looked for, or was hiring for XML, NIEM-based XML technical specialists, I looked at the job postings first, see what my competition was. And I found within a few searches about 50 postings for NIEM expertise at my level. And I thought, oh no. How are we going to compete with the federal salaries against what's happening in the IT arena? So some of that is happening. It might just be happening, might have just been a coincidence, but it was happening across the country. I think we found it wasn't a DC Beltway consolidation of those postings. I think the program has a couple of things that we can do to help the industry help themselves. So currently we're in the process of finalizing training curriculum by which we would like to kind of hand over. So we'd like to be in the process of certifying the curriculum and allowing industry to train themselves, allowing industry to pick up that curriculum and provide training programs. I think that's one way that we certainly can help build that pipeline of NIEM expertise for you. I think the other way is we do have shortages, and I've been pretty public about this, in our tool strategy. And I think that there are vendors who are struggling to help us fill those gaps, or struggling to help articulate those gaps. But we certainly have on us to create a stronger specification for our products, so we can roll that back out and create a stronger partnership by which industry can respond and provide tools to help fill some of those gaps. So I think for industry, it's around training and helping us with more feet on the ground with training. We have some great training. We're rolling out curriculum, specific curriculum, and it's in the tool strategy.
Hi, my name is Isaiah Goodall with Elder Research. I had a question about a comment that Vivek made this morning about how investments in IT have been very inefficient and how a lot of the money is being spent on integrating the data and not so much on extracting the value. So I'm curious what specific strategies you have as the data is being integrated of how to leverage the power of that data using analytics and data mining or things like that.
So the comment that Vivek made earlier was pointing at the reality that in current legacy environments that are not so well architected, or you've got a lot of point-to-point connections, right? And these point-to-point connections are usually not in organizations that have less mature governance, or not managed centrally. So they evolve at different rates. So that introduces huge complexity, right, in terms of how you share information, how you have to deal with changes that you control, you don't control, right? The fact that data, it may be semantically inconsistent across different systems. You know, a key value proposition for NIEM is the ability then to build a smaller number of reusable exchanges that are architected with a view across the entire portfolio, so you've got fewer points of exchange. They're managed centrally, change is synchronized, and you know, you can focus on adding value versus the translation sort of a phenomenon. Once you can do that, right, and once you can work through, you know, the either wrapping existing systems so that you can query them through a reference IPD, you can start to do federated queries across all and look at patterns and things like that. And so with that, maybe I'll let Donna and Richard talk about some of the things they're doing inside DHS along those lines.
Yeah, well, being brand new, I don't want to use a DHS example, but I would say that we were quite successful using a federated model of setting up a virtual warehouse type of capability in the IRS, even though we had, I mean, all brand of database under the sun, as you can imagine, and all levels of and types of technologies dating from the 1960s to very current technology. And I mean, I think the technologies today, while they're available, it really does still come down to, and I go back to what I hearkened on before, you have to have a solid enterprise architecture, right, and you have to have standards such as NIEM, right, in order to be able to classify the data, to store the data in such a way that it can be accessed. In the federal government arena, at least in my experience, we're not going to easily be able to migrate to other than logical data stores. The physical legacy system environment is so complex and it is so difficult to modernize that you have to, if you will, leverage that legacy for a long time. And I don't suspect I'm going to find anything different in DHS. But how you bring that data together in a logical sense, I think that's part of the power of NIEM. And so as I get into working here at DHS, that's certainly one of the areas that we'll be exploring.